The summons. High Counselor Verithar's 6 crystalline appendages glistened under the ancient light of the council chamber. The chamber itself, carved from a single asteroid billions of years ago, had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. The Varaxians had outlasted them all. Until now, perhaps. Bring forth the visual documentation once more, Verithar commanded, voice resonating through the mental link shared by all 23 council members. The central holographic display illuminated, showing the human expansion pattern across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy in just 73 cycles. It was unprecedented, alarming, and worst of all, unpredictable. They bypass established protocols, stated Elder Zixia, her crystalline form pulsing with concerned light patterns. They establish colonies without submitting proper documentation. They modify our ancient gate network to suit their purposes without authorization. And yet, countered Junior Counselor Thexel, the youngest among them, at merely 15,000 cycles, they have not technically violated any of our binding laws. A wave of mental displeasure rippled through the chamber. That, Verithar pronounced, is precisely the problem. These humans operate within the boundaries of our laws, while completely disregarding their spirit. It cannot continue. What do you propose? Asked Zixia. Verithar's central core glowed with determination. We summon them. Not their diplomatic attaches or junior representatives. We demand their actual decision-makers. Let them explain themselves before the full council. Is that wise? Thexel's crystalline form dimmed slightly. No species has been granted such an audience in over 50,000 cycles. No species has warranted one, Verithar replied. These humans must learn their place in the galactic order. The summons was transmitted across all frequencies known to humanity. 3 cycles later, to the Council's surprise, the humans actually arrived. Their vessel was small by Varaxian standards, barely 20 kilometers in length, but its design confounded even the eldest analysts. It utilized principles of physics that the Varaxians had deemed impractical millennia ago, yet somehow the humans had made them work. The human delegation consisted of just 3 members. Ambassador Elena Chen, a small female with features that suggested ancestry from Earth's eastern regions. Commander Jackson Reed, a tall military representative with dark skin and an unsettling tendency to smile at inappropriate moments. And Professor Alan Matsuda, a scientist whose age spots and wrinkled skin indicated he was approaching humanity's pitifully short lifespan limit. They stood now at the center of the council chamber, dwarfed by the towering crystalline forms surrounding them, yet displaying no signs of intimidation. Humans, Verithar began, you have been summoned to account for your species' disregard for established galactic protocols. Your expansion violates the spirit of treaties established long before your kind achieved consciousness. Ambassador Chen stepped forward. Thank you for this opportunity, High Counselor. We're honored to stand in this historic chamber. However, I must respectfully question your assertion. Which specific treaty provisions has humanity violated? The directness of the question, something no species would dare, sent ripples of indignation through the council. You utilize the ancestral gates in ways not authorized, Zixia stated. The Treaty of Cerulean specifically permits any species to study and improve upon existing gate technology, Professor Matsuda replied, his voice surprisingly strong despite his age. Section 47, Paragraph 9 states that advancements which do not impede existing functionality may be implemented without prior authorization. Our modifications have increased efficiency by 37% across the network. You colonize worlds without filing proper intention documents, countered another counselor. Commander Reed smiled that unsettling smile. Actually, we filed every required document. The fact that we began colonization efforts while the documents were still in processing doesn't violate any provision. The Galactic Charter places no waiting period between filing and action. The council chamber fell silent. What the humans said was technically correct, and the Varaxians prided themselves on adherence to technical correctness. You have expanded too quickly, Verithar finally stated. It disrupts the balance. With respect, Chen replied, there is no law governing speed of expansion. The Galaxian Empire expanded across 5 sectors in 30 cycles during the Third Era, according to your own historical records. The Galaxians are extinct, Zixia pointed out coldly. Not because of their expansion rate, Matsuda countered. Historical records indicate internal political collapse unrelated to their growth pattern. This continued for hours. For every accusation, the humans had a precise, technically correct response. They knew the ancient laws better than many of the counselors themselves. When finally a recess was called, the council retreated to private deliberations. They mock us, Zixia declared. They weaponize our own legal framework against us. They exploit gaps in systems designed for species that understand propriety and place, another added. And yet, Fexel ventured cautiously. Perhaps what we're witnessing is not malice, but a fundamentally different approach to law and governance. Verithar's crystalline form pulsed with annoyance. Explain. We view laws as approximations of ideal behavior, with the understanding that no legal framework can encompass every situation. We expect species to adhere to the spirit behind the law. Fexel explained. Humans appear to view laws as precise boundaries. They operate exactly at those boundaries, neither violating them nor conceding unnecessary limitation. That is chaotic, Zixia declared. It is effective, Fexel countered. When the session resumed, Verithar decided on a new approach. Humans, your technical compliance is noted. However, the Galactic Charter's preamble clearly states that all member species must act in the interest of harmonious coexistence and sustainable development. Your actions, while technically permissible, violate this principle. Ambassador Chen nodded thoughtfully. An excellent point, High Counselor. Do we? Professor Matsuda asked mildly. Article 12 of the Charter states that governance structures shall evolve to reflect the changing needs of the galactic community. In 107 million cycles, this provision has never been invoked. We are simply suggesting its implementation. Commander Reed stepped forward with a data crystal. We've taken the liberty of drafting a proposal for a new interpretive council, one that includes representatives from all technological epochs, not just the ancestral species. The council chamber erupted in mental chaos. What the humans proposed was radical, unprecedented, and completely permissible under the Charter's own provisions. This is why you were summoned, Zixia declared. This proof of your disruptive nature. No, replied Chen calmly. We were summoned because you feared what you didn't understand. We've simply demonstrated that your fear was justified, though not for the reasons you thought. As the data crystal's contents were projected into the chamber, displaying a comprehensive restructuring of galactic governance that would diminish Varaxian authority while remaining entirely within the boundaries of existing law, Verithar realized the humans hadn't been brought to trial. They had come to deliver a verdict. The reckoning. The private council chamber vibrated with agitation. Crystalline beings shifted and pulsed with emotional colors rarely seen in these ancient halls. For the first time in over 50,000 cycles, the Varaxian High Council faced a challenge they couldn't simply dismiss. This is outrageous. Elder Zixia's form glowed a dangerous orange. They twist our words, our laws, to serve their purposes. They exploit technicalities, agreed another counselor. We should reject their proposal outright. Junior Counselor Fexel drifted forward, his crystalline structure still faint blue. The color of consideration. Is it exploitation to use a system exactly as it was designed? Our ancestors created these laws to be precise. The humans have simply taken that precision to its logical conclusion. You defend them. Verithar's center core flashed dangerously. I observe them, Fexel countered. And I wonder if what unsettles us most is not their disregard for our ways, but rather how effectively they've mastered them. Silence fell across the chamber. The unspoken truth hovered between them. In just 300 cycles of spacefaring existence, humans had comprehended legal structures that had taken the Varaxians millions of cycles to perfect. Their proposed interpretive council would include representatives from all technological epochs. A counselor finally noted. The Varaxians would retain a position. One voice among many, Zixia countered bitterly. After eons of solitary governance, Virithar's form stabilized into the deep purple of decision. We will hear them out, but we will not be rushed into change. The pace of the universe is measured in millions of cycles, not hundreds. When the humans returned to the chamber, they seemed unsurprised by the council's skepticism. Your proposal is unprecedented, Virithar began. It would fundamentally alter structures that have maintained galactic stability for eons. Ambassador Chen nodded. Change often appears threatening, especially when systems have functioned adequately for so long. But adequate isn't the same as optimal, is it? Our governance has overseen the peaceful development of thousands of species, Zixia stated firmly. And the extinction of hundreds more, Commander Reed countered. The Tilaxians, the Vorelli Collective, the Drani, all gone because they couldn't adapt to rigid frameworks designed for crystalline immortals rather than short-lived organics. Gasps echoed through the mental link. These were names not spoken in the council for millennia. Deliberate extinctions classified as natural progression. You tread dangerous ground, human, Virithar warned. History often is, Professor Matsuda replied mildly. But perhaps a demonstration would be more effective than debate. Before the council could respond, alarms blared throughout the chamber. A security breach, impossible in this most secure of locations. What have you done? Zixia accused. Nothing, Chen replied calmly. But it appears the Shrikeen have finally made their move. Holographic displays activated, showing a massive fleet of ships, organic mechanical hybrids feared across 3 spiral arms, emerging from subspace near the council world. The Shrikeen are a myth, a counselor protested weakly. A myth you created, Reed corrected, to hide the truth that a silicon-based intelligence has been evolving in the galactic rim for the past 50,000 cycles. An intelligence your monitoring systems classified as anomalous but harmless, because it didn't fit recognized patterns. How could you possibly know this? Virithar demanded. Because we look for what doesn't fit patterns, Matsuda explained. While you dismiss anomalies, we investigate them. 3 human exploration vessels disappeared in Shrikeen territory last cycle. We tracked the energy signatures, decoded their communication structures, and prepared countermeasures. Chen stepped forward. High Counselor, we face a choice. Continue debating while an existential threat approaches, or implement an emergency response that requires both our species' cooperation. What do you propose? Thexel asked, ignoring the shocked reactions from elder counselors. Reed activated a tactical display. The Shrikeen utilize quantum-entangled communication that makes them virtually impossible to disrupt through conventional means. However, they've never encountered human encryption algorithms. Meanwhile, your crystalline vessels can withstand their primary weapons, but lack the maneuverability to effectively target their neural nodes. You suggest a joint defense. Virithar's tone conveyed disbelief. I suggest survival, Reed replied bluntly. What followed was unprecedented in galactic history. Human tacticians directing Varaxian vessels through evasive patterns they'd never considered possible. Varaxian energy specialists reconfiguring human weapon systems to penetrate Shrikeen defenses. Junior Counselor Thexel working directly with Professor Matsuda to adapt ancient Varaxian communications technology to broadcast disruptive signals on frequencies the Shrikeen couldn't filter. 6 hours later, the Shrikeen retreated, their hivemund temporarily fragmented by the unexpected cooperation between species they had calculated would never work together. In the aftermath, the council chamber felt different, smaller somehow. You knew they were coming, Virithar accused the humans. We suspected, Chen corrected. Our analysts identified a 78% probability of attack within the next 3 cycles. The timing was convenient for our demonstration. You risked galactic security for a political point. Zixio was incandescent with rage. No, Matsuda replied firmly. We accelerated an inevitable confrontation under controlled circumstances, with defensive measures already in place. Had the Shrikeen attacked according to their timeline, casualties would have been in the billions. The traditional Varaxian response would have been to analyze the threat for at least 1 cycle before implementing countermeasures, Fexel observed. A cycle during which the Shrikeen would have established unbreakable footholds throughout the sector. This is the essence of our proposal, Chen explained. Not to diminish Varaxian wisdom, but to complement it with human adaptability. Not to replace your perspective, but to add ours alongside it. Silence fell as the implications settled across the council. Finally, Verithar spoke. For 107 million cycles, we have guided this galaxy. We have seen civilizations rise and fall, and each time, we remained unchanging, consistent. The High Counselor's crystalline form shifted to a blue never before seen in the chamber. Perhaps that has been our limitation. 3 cycles later, the Galactic Interpretive Council held its first session. Alongside the Varaxian representatives sat delegates from 27 species across all technological epochs. At its center, a simple podium held the newly revised charter, its first article rewritten by unanimous consent. The strength of galactic civilization lies not in uniformity, but in diversity. Not in rigid adherence to tradition, but in the wisdom to know when tradition must evolve. Not in the dominance of any single perspective, but in the harmonious integration of all. As Ambassador Chen observed the proceedings, Commander Reed approached with a rare serious expression. Think they'll maintain the spirit of cooperation once the crisis memory fades? He asked quietly. Unlikely, Chen admitted. Change is never linear. There will be resistance, regression, conflict. Then was it worth it? Chen watched as Junior Counselor Fexel, now representing the Varaxian delegation, engaged in animated discussion with a gelatinous representative from the Outer Rim. For most of their existence, the Varaxians believed they had reached the pinnacle of wisdom, she said. Today, they're learning something new. That alone makes it worthwhile. From the observation gallery, Professor Matsuda smiled as he recorded his final report to Earth Command. They summoned us for answers, but we questioned their laws instead. And in doing so, we may have saved them from their own certainty, the most dangerous trap for any species, regardless of how long they've existed among the stars. Far beyond the Council world, in the darkness between galaxies, the Shrikeen Collective processed its recent defeat, calculating new approaches. But for the first time in its existence, its predictive models contained a troubling variable: the unexpected partnership between the ancient and the new, the steady and the adaptive, the Varaxian and the human. The universe, it seemed, had changed its rules.